Welcome to Marketing, Machines, and Mischief, where we talk about the trillion-dollar industry with the excitement of getting your first paycheck. I'm Matthew Newell.
And I'm Chris Stone. And on today's episode, we're discussing the latest, most effective ways that companies and brands can get cited by ChatGPT and other AI apps, plus this week's biggest and baddest marketing and advertising headlines brought to you by this guy, Matthew Newell.
That's me, no matter if you work in marketing or advertising or are the sad puppy looking through the window to get in. Chris and I will help you get to where you want to go professionally, as long as that's up. Today's leading headline: the Interactive Advertising Bureau, or the IAB, as we all call it over coffee, updated its guidelines for when and how advertisers should disclose AI-generated content. So this is interesting because this is not you're not going to get fined by this company. This is all based on recommendations. The AI reflects new AI labeling laws in Europe, Asia, New York, and California, which basically means the entire Western world. Disclosures should cover consumer-facing uses like synthetic media, digital replicas. Sir, there's a joke in there about us being digital replicas, certain AI voices and chatbots. Now, because we're not crazy, routine edits and clearly fantastical imagery don't need labels, according to these laws, helping prevent, quote, label fatigue. Chris, are we hitting that nice balance of calling out AI marketing and advertising contents while not overburdening the business?
Clearly fantastical imagery. Matthew, I want this show to be labeled clearly fantastical. That would be fantastical. So like a talking taco ad gets a pass as clearly fantastical, but the second a brand slaps a synthetic voice on a chatbot, suddenly we need a warning label. So lying to consumers is fine as long as it's obviously ridiculous. I know they're trying to put guardrails and all kinds of things on here, but I just think that this is very, very much a gray area.
A lot of subjectivity in these laws. However, I mean, it sounds like something that it's what consumers want. They just want to be more informed. We'll see how. We'll see.
Want to be clearly fantastical.
It's a fantastical idea. Next on the marketing news docket, ChatGPT ads, which didn't exist 6 months ago, will expand into 31 new markets, including Germany, France, Sweden, Norway, Austria. This is in addition to the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand.
New Zealand's back in the chat. There we go.
I know. Just by way of contrast, New Zealand, I looked this up. Because of this, New Zealand has approximately 5 million citizens, and the US has 335 million. So thankfully, New Zealand got tucked into this. OpenAI says its daily advertising revenue has grown more than 25% since the beginning of August in these last 3 weeks. Its marketing targets include knowledge workers, developers, and business leaders, while emphasizing usefulness, advertising value, and revenue. That's just a bunch of corporate speak. The expansion comes as OpenAI reportedly prepares for a possible Q4 of 2022 IPO with a valuation of $852 billion.
Yeah.
That is a hair shy of $1 trillion.
And nothing says we're not just a chat bot. We're an ad platform, like torching your goodwill in, what'd you say, 31 new countries right before asking the public market to pay $850 billion for the privilege of watching you do it.
That's right.
New Zealand.
We are. Thank you. Thank you. Austria. You know?
Sehr gut.
So our final news headline. The U.S. out-of-home advertising revenue rose almost 11% to a record $3 billion in Q2 of 2026. Chris, the reason I pulled this out, we still talk about Meta printing money and Alphabet and Google printing money. Out-of-home advertising, what used to be called billboards, breaking records. It grew almost 20% in the year and represented, I don't know what that even means. We're going to skip that. Transit advertising was the fastest growing major format, increasing 24%. We've talked about that on the show before, the precision of geo-targeting. Technology sector spending surged 150%, led partly by growing investment from AI companies. Major live events also fueled growth, including FIFA's $3 million plus World Cup camp. $3 million on just out of home. That's a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, they're like 150% more desperate to convince you they're real by buying actual physical billboards. I don't know. I haven't seen one yet. I don't know, maybe you have, but it is an interesting way to use a marketing budget. I mean, it harkens back to the days where, a new Outkast record would come out and we'd sit down in Atlanta to do a marketing plan for the new album that's coming from Outkast and put it on MARTA trains and bus benches and things like that. I haven't seen one of those for ChatGPT yet, or Claude or whatever. You would think they would get a little bit more creative with that, but why not see if it works, right? Take a shot, see if out of home works.
That is a good transition into, or segue, as they call in the business, to get to what Chris and I wanted to talk about on this show, because it's a question that comes up all the time. We know that there are these chatbots, these LLMs. We're not talking about the small language models. We're talking about the large ones.
Yes.
How do we get placed in there? We somehow figured out the box of Google 10, 15 years ago. They just keep changing it, so we keep up with it. How are we going to do the same for what's called GEO or AEO? It actually has two. It's so important it has two acronyms, Chris. So nice they named it. So nice they named it twice and hopefully thrice. So with SEO, the goal was pretty simple. Like it was just get ranked first. What's the old joke? Where's the best place to hide a dead body on the second page of the Google rankings?
Nice.
I still tell that joke. It's like a 2-decade-year-old joke. And
I love a good Google dad joke. I love a good.
That's right. I'm gonna have to retire it soon. So here's what's tough though about SEO versus where we are now with this chat stuff. There's no published ChatGPT ranking formula. So no one, I don't care how much they promise you, and I don't care how much they ask you to pay them, no one can guarantee a citation. This is an early volatile field. So there's a lot of opportunity for, especially if you're new in business, there's a lot of opportunity to jump in. And of course, what we want to help you out with is avoiding the snake oil salespeople. So Chris, you've got good experience. No one has all the experience on this one. Anyone that says I know everything is trying to, get $350 an hour out of you. So
right.
In your experience as two homeboys who are just trying to trying to get SH done, what's your experience so far with getting listed in ChatGPT and other AI bots?
That's right. We're just a couple of marketing squirrels trying to crack a nut over here and get found. Right. I would say I'm going to go sort of general, and I'm going to talk a little bit more to small businesses here. I know we're just coming off of a show where we talk about small business marketing. We didn't carve into this, which I'm glad we had the opportunity to. So if you watched 2 weeks ago from this particular episode, we dove deep into small business marketing. We did not touch on this, but I'm going to talk sort of overarching in mindset as it relates to small businesses and GEO, AEO getting found on these large language models. And that is, number one, don't get that FOMO. Don't get that fear of missing out. This is
Good
still
call.
completely there is a lot of unknown here. And to your earlier point, that you mentioned here a few minutes ago, do not consider someone an expert. And I even when SEO, was a thing, search engine optimization was a thing, and there was, throw a rock and hit an SEO expert. They were everywhere, right? It was a part of everyone's byline on their LinkedIn profile. These algorithms change constantly, and so what you think you're an expert on, the only true experts are the ones that work on these platforms, and they can't tell you anything. But what we know is you have to have good judgment and discernment, and almost be a detective and kind of see what will work for you. But again, don't get that like, oh God, I don't understand it. I can't, this is gone. It's water out of the fire hose. I can't sip on it. And like the big companies are going to, probably employing these people. And I'm, as a small business, I can't do it. I don't have the time to do it. Just dip your toe in the water and do a few things. And I think we're going to talk about that here, Matthew, and some more practical ways that people can do this, because exactly what you said. You can't possibly know everything there is to know, and it's complete Wild West at this point. You're just going to have to, but you can't ignore it either, right? That's the other thing, is you cannot ignore it. It's absolutely, happening, but you don't have to snap your fingers and know everything at this point, because it's all going to change tomorrow.
It's like trying to hold water, and it's going to change tomorrow for two reasons. And we can learn from the search engine Google side of it. It's going to change tomorrow for two reasons. Number one, they're continually updating their algorithms to increase their effectiveness. So that's the business answer. And then there's also the cynical answer, which is the companies themselves benefit from the volatility. Like, if it continues to change like SEO did, then everyone has to hire the army of SEO specialists. And in this case, now we're going into the army of JEO or GEROF, is whatever their new acronyms are. What's interesting, I would say a good place to start is actually whatever your, let's take two scenarios. Like, you've got the small business selling pizza, and then let's also say that you're a new HVAC regional service provider, air conditioning dude. What I would do is a good place to start to help reduce that FOMO, as Chris said, is to write down, what the questions are. Your salespeople get the questions every day. What are the 5 or 10 questions that you get all the time? Prices and timelines and the equipment and whatever. Write all those down. Pop those into your current ChatGPT or whatever AI you use, and see what other brands or companies it talks about, including your own. You may not even know it, because these are robots and they're working 24/7. You may not know it. They actually may have learned about you while you were sleeping, or throwing axes with your family on the weekend. So start out with that. See what the lay of the land is, and that's where I would start. And that may show you some opportunities to, one, this information is wrong, and I need to find out a way to kind of correct it in the digital world so that ChatGPT knows it, or to confirm that you're actually getting cited. Like you're on there, and maybe it is tweaking some things, but the chatbots only can go with what information they found. So if they found the wrong information, the burden is on you to correct it. Chris, let me ask you a question, because I think you probably have a little bit more Reddit experience than I do. Another interesting part of the AI chatbot that I did not see this coming at all. All of a sudden, Reddit and those kind of online platforms went from, okay, we've been around for a couple decades now, Wikipedia being another one,
Wikipedia, yep.
All of a sudden, it's like the backbone of ChatGPT and others.
Yeah.
They've literally signed deals with these companies because, one, it's what people are talking about, it's real knowledge, and two, it actually helps the LLMs and chatbots learn how to write, because these are by definition humans writing all this stuff. So talk to me, like, how do you balance the Reddits and the Wikipedias in this,
right,
which is kind of like Web 1.0, and now we're talking about Web like 13.10,
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, especially as it relates to, I don't know, businesses in general, but especially like small, mid-level businesses, a lot of it was Google reviews, right? And so you get all these Google reviews in, and you want to keep those reviews up, and I think a lot of people were gaming the system there, and there's a lot of sort of third-party channels that the businesses were gaming from a review standpoint. Amazon's another one where there's some gaming going on, and Amazon's played whack-a-mole on that front. But you got to get mentioned in places where AI is actually reading it. So that's why Reddit and Wikipedia are happening, because these are more like what people are actually saying about your products, about your services, about your company. And so it's absolutely more relevant than these other things that could be sort of inaccurate. And so you spoke on the accuracy issue. The other thing you've got to do when you're a business is make sure you're the same thing in all of the places. So like make sure the accuracy of your website, your social media, like all of those things, because anytime there's something that is inaccurate in multiple places, that's going to cause a break in the whole system. That was the same with SEO too, but now's the time. Yesterday was actually the time to make sure that where your business is in all of those places is accurate. The same Instagram handles, the same, you shouldn't be posting the same thing in all of these places, but the places where people can find you should be the same, so that these LLMs can match that up. And then they're looking at places like Reddit, Wikipedia, some of these other places as like, Yelp, TripAdvisor, you should, your traditional channels like Google Maps pack, your organic listings, all of those things. You should make sure that you're there. You have your card table in the internet. You've got the address. You've got, like, everybody knows where to find you. And if somebody decides to say something about your company on Reddit, and you're not in there trying to farm your business on Reddit, don't go do that now, because you're going to get in trouble there. You want to, when somebody goes and does that, they know where to find you, and you start showing up in these listings. So it's important that you're not gaming the system for Google reviews. That's why the AIs, the LLMs are finding these other places, and make sure all your stuff is accurate. And your website, this is another thing too, Matthew. I don't know if you have this on the agenda or not, but your website for your business, you need to add what's called schema markup. Right? If you have not already. So this is the structured data, and this is where these LLMs, this is where they're looking. So this is like the single most cited fix, is that markup explicitly tells these AI systems your business type, if you're a restaurant, your cuisine, your location, your hours, your price ranges for your products and services, in that sort of machine readable format that's not just human readable text.
I love that, because that's the if I can translate into day-to-day human, like the schema markup is basically both the Google side, but increasingly also the AI side, because they're building off of what the internet already built. It's basically them saying, help us help you.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, we're investing trillions of dollars in these data centers, but it's actually kind of easier if you just don't lie to us, but it's actually easier if you say,
Yep.
Here's the schema. Are you going to be open on Memorial Day weekend? Just really basic stuff that you don't need to hire a digital sleuth to
That's right.
figure out the answer to.
That's right. Yeah, they make it as easy as they possibly can. But I mean, you're going to need to take a few hours and make sure that this stuff's right. If you have somebody that's your webmaster, whatever they're calling them now, the person who manages your website, you need to make sure that they have this stuff in there properly, in your headers and all of that stuff. And there's, some videos you can find on this thing called the internet that kind of tell you how to do that stuff. And once you start doing that, you're giving yourself the best possible chance, I think, of getting found.
I also, before I want to talk about content clusters, but I also don't want to forget, Chris, you talked about the value of consistency. And I want to say here on Marketing Machines and Mayhem, we really want to emphasize consistency in your naming conventions. And if one of your founders is off in that, get him off the ship. So,
inside joke.
It is.
Yes.
I have a bad habit of, I think Marketing Machines and Mayhem was like the alt B name of this show, and every once in a while it still comes up in my.
Every time I hear Mayhem,
cache.
I think of the black metal band, where that's what I think of, that band where the singer killed himself and then they wore his skull bones as a adornment. Yes.
What else are you gonna
R.I.P.
Throw them away?
Yeah, that's good marketing.
Exactly. But content clusters. So this might be a new idea for some of our viewers, particularly if you're a small business and you're trying to sell your HVAC services or pizza. You don't need to be sitting around thinking about content clusters. But it's a little bit of an idea that came out of the previous digital world, but I think it's even more important. So let's say I'll take HVAC services. So a topic cluster would be a common question being, hey, how do I stay cool in the summer without blowing out my air conditioning bill? That's a content cluster where you can answer that on your website. You can answer that on Facebook. You can answer that if you've got like kind of a Google feedback thing, Reddit, answer that question in a million different places, or not a million, but where it's appropriate, because the AIs are everywhere all the time. They actually see that way better than Google, because at this point, Google's looking a little one or two dimensional, whereas AI is trying to look in as many places as it can. That's where the data centers come from. But it puts together this puzzle for you, and it's a little bit of a pain to get those content clusters, those relevant content clusters out there. But view them as like your moat, your digital moat. Once they're there, and ChatGPT or Claude or whomever trusts that information, you are way to the front of the pack. Now, you still have to keep up with it. Stuff still changes 6 months from now. The competitive landscape is different. The AIs are different, but think about it's just a little bit of a different way to think about not just flat content, but content like 3D content clusters. I don't know why they have to be multidimensional, but that's where we went.
It's a great point, Matthew. And I loved how you framed it around patience, because this is not, folks, none of this thing. And of course, don't blink. Things are going to change. But if you don't get in and start planting these seeds out on Reddit or, and making sure that your business or service or product or whatever becomes more authoritative in that space. And so I'm a podcast producer. I produce this podcast amongst others. And so I get questions all the time from prospective clients. I know who that client is. So if you're a particular business and we keep up bringing HVAC, we can come up with something else. Medical marijuana. So like if you sell a medical marijuana, what are people asking mostly that come into your location? Who are your customers? What type of demographic? Where do they hang out? What are the things that they do? What are the questions that they ask? These are the things that I ask my clients to create podcast content.
Yep.
Because you're serving them. So that person may be in Arizona. Person may be in Saskatchewan. That person may be, wherever. And they have those same questions and you can serve them. So creating that sort of authoritative, and again, I mentioned this earlier, you can't look like you're trying to sell on Reddit because that'll get you shut down. This is more of a, hey, I'm going to hang out in this Reddit thread related to where I know my potential consumers, clients, and people I want to serve are hanging out. I'm going to show up. I'm going to answer their questions. I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to just be, show up a little bit more authoritative, and things will get connected. Is kind of the way I look at it.
And I love the medical marijuana example is a good one because it's so specific. Like those questions that you're getting, you're not asking those questions when you're looking for Advil or right. other medical things. Right. That's a great example. I want to throw out one other idea before we wrap up the show. It used to be that companies on the inside would talk about share of search or share of voice, meaning let's say it's you and like 6 competitors, and how much of that, of the people talking about the world that you and your competitors live in, is the share that they're talking about you in there 10% or is it 50%? That is interesting from an SEO, from a search perspective. I'm going to be curious to see what the new metric is. What do we call it? How do we measure it from AI? Because right now, shockingly, in the AI world, which is so complex, so multi-layered, the results are kind of binary for now. I'm either cited in AI or I'm not. And a year from now, it'll be more complex. And 5 years from now, it'll be even more complex than that. But get in on it now because it's going to be, am I listed or not? And then it'll get more complex too. Is it correct or not? But these are actually, as bizarre as it sounds, these are the easy days of AI listing for your business. So that is what marketers can actually control in the world of AI and ChatGPT. And Chris, thank you so much for your insights.
I love it. I love how you bookended it with what you can and can't control, because that's true. What you can control is you have to do the work here. This isn't somebody's just going to figure it out for you. If you're going to have to figure it out and do some figuring on yourself, and be ready to get a little adept at kind of moving around and figuring this stuff out. It's going to take some work on your end. But I think, some of these practical tips that we talked about here on the show, I think are, I don't know, Matthew, I think they're clearly fantastical.
I believe in this podcast. I believe in the information contained in this podcast. And I believe in you, the viewer, the marketer, the go-doer, the do-gooder.
The human,
the actual human that we're tap dancing around all these AIs. And what a fantastical show, Chris. I really appreciate it.
All right, so that's it for this week's Marketing Machines and Mischief. If you liked the show, then go show us. There's a thing that looks like a thumb there. You just hit that little thing. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff. We do this show every single week. Have a blast. We hope you're having a blast too. And if you want, go into the comments and let us know your thoughts on getting found by AI, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe what you've done as a business, small, medium, large, whatever. And we'd love to be able to share that on the next show. But as always, before we go, we always have a
little lesson learned. Goodbye, New Zealand. We'll miss you the most.
Bye.